Okay, what's up, guys? Today is gonna be a bit of a longer one. I want something I can just sip on absentmindedly while we have a chat. Here's the cappuccino French vanilla. Let's get that thing cranking. It's a really nice day today. I thought it was gonna start raining by now, but it hasn't yet. Also, it's warm enough that I can finally use the porch. I got the grass mowed yesterday, which is why I got such a late start with the stream. By the time the cat, that's my chair. Charlie's got his own chair, but he's sitting in mine. I was wondering where he was. I expected he'd be out here sitting in his chair. His chair is ignore the pile of cardboard, all right? I've been collecting cardboard because they're very specific about how you have to recycle the cardboard up here, and I just don't have the ability to do it their specific recycle way. But we're gonna probably end up using it for campfire fuel, to be honest, since we can't uh, meet the city's insane requirements for recycling cardboard. But ignore the pile of cardboard. But the cat has taken over my chair. That's his chair. You can see by all the fur on it up by the window. I'm gonna have to kick him off my chair. Oh, of course he sits down and starts licking his fucking balls on my chair right when I'm about to do that. But yeah, we're gonna sit on the porch and have a little discussion today. Oh, my neck and head are kind of killing me, which is what we're gonna talk about. All right, the I once I'm done painting the basement, we're gonna paint the porch. That's the next thing. We out before we get started on this. Let me grab the coffee. Uh, I'm waiting. I was gonna paint the rest of the basement this week, but the plan has gone awry because we're not getting the washer when I thought we're getting the washer. Nothing ever goes according to plan. But we did get this whole area painted, and the only wet area you see is stuff from the washer hot water. I keep twisting that closed as much as I can, but it keeps slowly opening itself back up, and then it will start fill up that bucket and start leaking. Once the area dries underneath it, I'm actually kind of annoyed right now because you can see there are like little bubbles in the paint that I'm sure were caused by the water sitting on top of it, but whatever. Hopefully, once that dries out, they go away and they don't just pop and cause problems. But once it does dry out, I'm going to move an empty 5 gallon bucket underneath it so that it has a lot more time before it fills up. But what I actually want to talk about today are my headaches. I get a lot of headaches. And not the ones caused by Charlie. I need you to get off my chair, Charlie. Go sit on yours, buddy. Come on, get up, cat. All right. See, he knows. He's going to sit on his chair. All right. So, I have demons in my spine. Now, what does this mean? Effectively, it's just a physical manifestation of stress. We've talked about this before. I don't know who all is up. That's what if I put it on the little table I have here? Perfect. Almost. We don't want to. I don't have boxes on underneath the row. I don't want to show you anything y'all don't want to see that could get me banned. Um, so, oh, I'm just stretching it out real quick. Earlier, we talked about, in a previous video, we talked about like the sores on my arms and stuff, and you can see they're almost entirely gone. Now, a doctor would call this stress-induced eczema, and they're not wrong. They're absolutely right. You know, I've always been a scientist my entire life. I really care about evidence and data and all that stuff. But the more questions I've asked, the more I've realized that there are some questions that just can't be answered by science. And the big one always ends up being why. Science is really good at answering how and when and if then, but science really sucks at answering why. Now there are some whys where it's like, why does the apple fall from the tree? Because of gravity. But that's actually more of a how. How does the apple fall from the tree? Well, there's this thing called the Higgs boson, aka the God particle, which gives matter mass, as far as we could tell. This is like a gross oversimplification, by the way. And this mass bends space-time around it, causing mass to attract other mass to it in proportion to the size of its mass. And the Earth is infinitely more massive than the apple. So the apple falls onto the Earth. However, it's worth noting that the apple is also pulling on the Earth itself. That's a crazy thing, right? The apple is pulling the Earth towards it too. So, what about these demons in my spine? I've always carried my stress in my shoulders, as they say. I get really bad muscle cramps up there, and I have two things that cause my migraines. One is sinus issues. I have a deviated septum with a spur that we've looked at getting. Um, Sorry, I can feel the migraine in my eye right now. We've looked at getting operated on before, but it's not really been worth it according to the doctors. They wanted to keep me on medications that didn't actually solve the problem. In some ways, just made it worse because they gave me this insane nasal drip that would often just be incredibly uncomfortable, make it really difficult for me to practice my vocals. And I'm sure they got plenty of money for putting me on those prescriptions. Or someone did, at least, you know? I'm much. I'm the type of person I'd much rather just do the surgery and fix the problem than. Like, I'd rather put a new roof on than patch a leaky roof forever. But whether this is the cause of that or not, it's worth noting that the big pharma companies don't make any money off you if you get the surgery. So maybe one day I'll find an ENT, which is ear, nose, throat doctor, that'll just have me get the surgery. But until then, I don't even use the I don't even use the medications anymore. I just have a neti pot and hot showers, and that honestly works better than the fucking prescriptions they give me, anyways. What really works best is actually THC, but I haven't had that shit in like over a year. I've been pretty much since I've been up here, I haven't been able to buy any of that. So I found other ways to work, like taking a long ass shower and using the neti pot takes way more time and is less effective than simply ripping a dab pen. But hey, also it doesn't do anything for the headache. I then have to take ibuprofen and massage the fuck out of my neck and temples until the headache goes away. Like I took ibuprofen this morning and it still hasn't fully kicked in yet. Well, I'm sure it's doing its job, but it only can do so much against a full blown migraine. And I didn't really have a full blown migraine. It was like a 70% migraine today, but it was definitely one of those ones I had to lay in bed for a while. And I was chatting with some friends on Twitch. I probably lurked for about 30 minutes, 40 minutes before I felt like my head had stopped hurting enough to chat on Twitch. And now, why do I say the demons are in my spine? Well, this is something that's hard to explain because all of this has been a journey that it's taken me several years to come to these conclusions. All right, so again, most of this is really just a combination of my medical knowledge, being a firefighter EMT, and stuff I've learned from doctors and taken the next step when they couldn't answer my questions. I would have questions as to things and they just couldn't answer them. So I started seeking answers myself. Am I claiming that I'm correct? Absolutely not. Most of this is just speculation and observation. But here's the thing, it seems to be working for me. Now, I will warn anyone, this is a dangerous and uncomfortable path. When you're lost and stuck, I think we all have this fantasy that increasing our awareness or really leveling up in any way will soothe our pain. It will solve all our problems. But the reality is, often it just makes that stuff worse. You know, as you increase your level of awareness, so too do you increase your awareness of all the things that are wrong with you. It's insane, but I used to only really be able to feel that muscle tension, that stress around my neck and shoulder area. Now I feel it in my temples. I feel it behind my fucking ears. I feel it in my armpit. I feel it in my elbow. I feel it in my wrist. I feel it in my ankle. I feel it on the bottom of my feet, you know? So it's one of those things where the the journey of awareness and discovery of self is actually an incredibly painful one. And that's just the warning for anyone who would go on this journey themselves. I wouldn't even describe it as ups and downs. It's more of being able to clearly see the end goal, but having no idea or capability to judge how far away it is. And the only way to get there is to drag yourself on your belly through a pile of broken glass, you know? Uh, that's just the only way to keep going forward. And the thing is, if you stop going forward, most of the pain's gonna stop, and the wounds you have are going to heal, but then you're just stuck laying in that pile of broken glass. So every time you try and move in any direction, anything you do is going to be inherently painful on some level. The only way I see is to keep pushing through. And in some ways, it is roller coaster like, because sometimes you get to an area with more glass or less glass. But to be fair, I don't know if while we're on this planet, we will ever truly get to a place where there's no glass, you know? I feel like as long as you are continually trying to grow and improve yourself, there's always going to be pain involved with that. But you also can't stop fighting it. Otherwise, you lose, in my opinion. I'm so actively fighting it that I don't know if you've been watching, but I've been massaging my arm this whole video and parts of my neck and stuff. There is literally a massive clump of tension and muscle stress and what I'm just going to call negative energy in my elbow right now. I'm slowly working that out. Cat's playing in the cardboard. So maybe that's a good thing. It gives him something to play with. But it's weird where every time I think I'm in the clear or over the hill, it just gets worse again. You know? For a while, I thought the migraines were gone, that I'd dealt with most of that. Then I had the breakout of eczema on my legs, and then I thought I was entirely over that, but the migraines came back. Then I had the breakout of eczema on my arms, and I thought I was done with the migraines. Then the eczema spread over my entire body, and the migraines came back. And then the eczema went away, and the migraines came back more. But the craziest thing is every time I go through one of these levels, one of these phases, my mind is clearer, and negative invasive thoughts and addictions have less power over me. So I'm clearly always constantly leveling up. And I wish there were an end in sight. And I can see an end goal, but I've now come to the realization that I probably won't ever reach that until the day that I die. But the choice is the same. Either I give up or I keep going. And now we come to the part where I talk about them being specifically in my spine, these negative thoughts and negative emotions. I think we basically have five consciousnesses in total, I'd say. But the other one is a little bit beyond us. That other one is the universal consciousness, right? Our connection to the source or God or the Force, if you're a Star Wars fan, whatever you want to call it. I believe we all have a connection to that. And I think it's important to say that the farther we get away from that the farther we get away from that connection, the more pain we experience in our lives and the more pain we cause other people. Because since we're all connected to that source, if we are divorced from the source, then we are constantly swimming an uphill battle. I've noticed the closer I get to the source, the I'm not gonna say my life gets any better. Is my life better than it was a year ago? Yes, absolutely. But I also have entirely new challenges and difficulties I couldn't have imagined a year ago. So, in some ways, it balances out. What I will say is that I am better able to tolerate and confront the challenges and stresses of life. So, even though my life may not be better by many metrics, I am definitely happier and more centered in my situation than I was a year ago. Now, the four parts of consciousness that are essentially us is I feel we have one primary consciousness, which is our thinking brain, our choosing brain, right? It's mostly the me that is talking right now. But as I've gotten more in touch with the other parts of my being, I've learned to let those speak as well. Going back to the me from a year ago, the me from a year ago would have been too cowardly and too unsure of myself to openly speak about demons like this, you know? This is the mind that I don't think most people would dispute. Some people dispute if this mind even exists at all. Some people suggest we don't have any free will or things like that. I believe that's all bullshit. And if anyone believes that, I would love to debate you. Hey, Kat. What's up, Charlie? Don't mess with the phone, please.